Hey, welcome to Financial Friday. Financial Friday. This is what I do every Friday as part of my Daily Dose series. But we try to keep it finance related on Fridays because try to help people who may be in a situation where they're under a mound of debt and don't know how to get out from under. All right. That's the whole objective here is to help people. And my name is Mr. Eric Watson. I am a financial coach, Dave Ramsey Solutions preferred financial coach with my own business, TE3 Solutions. And this is what we do is help people out when they're in dire financial situations or if they just want to improve their financial status. All right. So we work with them and coach them through whatever situation it may be. I am not the subject matter expert. I am not the financial planner who will offer you securities to invest in. I am not the insurance broker who will offer you insurance. So I have nothing to sell. I strictly work on coaching and strategy. All right. So hopefully we can work together to get everyone out from underneath their finances. All right. Now, today's topic is actually one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites because it's one of the first things that we should all be looking at with regard to our household finances. It's one of the first things. All right. And that is a budget. A budget. Everyone should have a household budget in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Everyone should have a household budget. Your budget is your blueprint to success. Okay? That is how you get to where you want to be financially, is the information provided by and following what you provide as your plan on the budget. And all a budget is a plan for spending, a plan for income. All right. You put those together and you have your budget. And, you know, some people budget from month to month. Some budget for a year out. Some budget for years. All right. Because that's how far out they plan. All right. I'm one of those budget for the year kind of guys. So I have a budget laid out for the year of 2020. So I have an idea of what I plan on spending from month to month in the year of 2020. And I also have a plan for what I plan to make money wise. All right. So that all comes together to help guide and steer us in where we need to make changes, adjustments, trim the fat, where we need to, pay some additional money in order to pay off some of our bills. It gives us an idea of what way we can go about paying those bills off or how we go about following that plan that we have. All right. So a budget is key in anyone's household. And what I compare it to is when I was a young lieutenant in the Marine Corps, all Marine Corps officers have to go to what is called the basic school. All right. The basic school in Quantico, Virginia. And that's where all young Marine Corps officers go to learn how to be officers, right? It's after you're already commissioned. So you go there and you learn about all the different military occupational specialties in the Marine Corps. Okay. So part of the basic school is land navigation. All right. Because what good Marine can't navigate to get to the battle, right? So you have to be able to navigate. So they give us a map. They give us a compass. They take us to a set point, and they give us another set point that we need to navigate to. All right. So that map that we have shows us how to get from point A to point B. All right. We're dropped off in an area, and what we have to do is we have to determine where we are. So we have to look at the terrain around us, associate the terrain with what is on the map, and determine where we are. We have to do some sort of analysis as to where we stand right now, so we know how to navigate to where we want to be. All right. And once we have established where we are, then we can do what is called plot and azimuth. So we can tell what direction we want to go, what obstacles we will encounter in between point A and point B, how we may circumnavigate those obstacles, go around, through, over, whatever the case may be. So we understand where we are and where we have to go. And that is essentially what a budget is for your finances. Because if we don't determine where we are on that map, there's no way that we can determine how to get where we want to be. We have to make a determination of where we are so we can determine what direction we are going to travel to get to our next point. And once we determine what direction we're going to travel, determine if we're going to have to go around some hills, find a crossing point for some rivers. We have to determine what we're going to have to go through to get to that next point. That's what the budget is. All right. But the very first thing that you have to do with that budget, when you create that budget, is orient yourself as to where you are and do that analysis as to where you are financially. Because again, you can't determine how to get to that point that you want to get to if you don't know where you are. So you have to determine where you are first and foremost. You have to look at your finances from month to month. How much am I spending every month on all different types of line items? How much am I spending on my housing, on my transportation, on my utilities, on my clothing? Those are the essentials, right? How much am I spending on those? And then how much am I spending on all the other activities? Each one of those activities should be a line item on a budget. Each one of those activities, however we're spending our money, should be reflected on that budget so that we can see exactly how much we have spent in past, because a lot of times what we've spent in past will be a direct reflection on what we're going to spend in future, right? Unless there's some type of pop-up type of event. I get it. Cars do break down. That's not a recurring cost, but in any budget, you want to plan some money in there just in case something like that. That could be your emergency fund or whatever the case may be, but you want to make sure that you plan for things like that. But you want to look at what you spend from month to month and put a line item on your budget for each one of those. And the same thing with your income. If you get paid twice a month, then you should have a line item for each one of those payments each month. One for the 1st, one for the 15th, across all the months. If you get paid every 2 weeks, for the most part, there'll be 2 lines of when you get paid each month. And I think there are usually about 2 months. There are 2 extra months in there where you get a third payment. That's if you get paid every 2 weeks. If you get paid irregular income, all right, you need to factor in what the average is. You want to be rather conservative, but if you get an income and it's up and down, you get paid off of tips or something like that, you want to determine what that average is and plot that as far as your projected income for the month. All right. Any other income that you may have, you want to plot that so you can give a reasonable guess as to what you think you would make from month to month as part of that budget. Just like all the spending that you have on your budget. All right. A reasonable guess as to what you would plan to spend. So again, I am a person who budgets a year out. So I have all those things programmed in my budget for the year of 2020. Some people budget from month to month. Either way, you still have to have a budget in your life to know how to get from where you are to where you want to go. Because a lot of us have aspirations to make large purchases, a home, a car, right? But how do we know if we're going to be in a solid financial position to make that purchase in future if we don't plan how to get there? All right, we have to plan how to get where we want to be. And I know we live in a microwave society today. We live in a society where people want to go from point A to point B right now. I don't want to worry about everything that's in between. I don't want to worry about how to get there. I'm not thinking about all the in-between steps. I just want to get there. But we have to get out of that microwave society because we don't have teleportation devices. And there's no way for us to get from point A to point B without all the steps that we have to go through in between. And if we don't plan that, we'll be wandering in the wilderness, sometimes for up to 40 years, right? We'll be wandering in the wilderness and wondering why we can never get to point B. We never planned a route. We never looked at that map and said, I'm going in this direction. I see right here, I'm going to have to go around a hill. I'm going to have to cross a river. I'm going up a hill, down a hill, and my desired location is right on the other side of that hill. If you have that budget, you know where your ups and downs in spending should be. You have that route planned out. And if you don't plan that route, and without that map being your budget, we can wander around in the woods for days on end and never get to that point that we're trying to reach when we're doing that land navigation. And the same thing holds true with a budget. We can wander around financially forever and never get to that set point. You have to do that analysis up front. And that's in anything you do. You have to determine where you are before you can determine how to get where you want to be. And map out those steps month by month, year by year, biting off small chunks of debt, paying off your mortgage, whatever the case may be. If your ultimate goal is to be debt free, financially free, you have to map that out. Now, I get it. There are some people who, I guess, are happy with the thrill of working from month to month and trying to figure out where their money's going to come from, or trying to figure out how they're going to pay the bills that they have. Trying to figure out how they're going to dig out from underneath a mound of debt. To me, that's not a thrill. All right. To me, a budget is a necessity because I know where I want to go. Financially, I know where I want to be. So with my budget, I know exactly what I have to do from month to month to get to that point. All right. Again, some people feel like they have that solid grasp on, playing it by thumb, or excuse me, playing it. Is it playing it by thumb? Whatever. But playing it with guesswork. All right. Some people feel comfortable with that. Personally, I'm not. All right. You have to plan where you want to go, what you want to do, who you want to be. You have to map out a plan. And when it comes to personal household finances, the budget is the first step in that plan. So I hope and pray each and every one of you out there is budgeting. I hope that you are taking the time to determine how to get where you want to go. Taking the time to map out that budget so you can say from month to month, I know exactly what I have to do. I'm going to pay a little extra on this bill till I pay that off. And then I'm going to roll that money over here and pay extra on these bills until I pay those off, until I have no more bills. Then I'm going to start chipping away on that mortgage. I'm going to save for college for my kids, if you have kids. Start investing. And one thing about investing is, a lot of people are looking at investing, especially in these days while the market is down. People are looking at investing as, okay, what can I invest in to make my next million, my first million for a lot of people? What can I invest in right now? But I'll say this. A lot of people aren't financially in a place where they should start investing. I said it. I'll take the criticism. But a lot of people aren't in a financial space where they're ready to invest. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but a lot of times we want to jump on that next hot stock. You want to have that Microsoft moment where, I always hear, wouldn't you have wanted to be on the ground floor of Microsoft? Well, if I had a crystal ball and I knew exactly where Microsoft is going, I would love to have been on the ground floor. But the bottom line is most investments are gambles because you don't know what's going to happen in the environment that will change the trajectory of that particular stock. All right. A lot of them are gambles. So you don't know what your return will be from month to month. However, if you're paying off your debt, if you're under amount of debt, you know what the return on that is going to be. Whatever the interest is on that debt that you owe. That is an actual interest return because you will not be charged that debt or that interest on the principal that you pay off. I hope that makes sense to everyone, but that's guaranteed return when you talk about numbers. All right? A lot of investments, you never know what their return is going to be. So until you're in a position to do that type of investing, I would recommend your focus be on paying off that debt, because you don't know what direction that investment is going to go in. All right. Last thing I'll say is I was looking at an article this week, and this article, I have it pulled up here. It is in Forbes magazine. And the title, it's dated April 29th of this year. And the title is Coronavirus and Debt: Options to Consider If You Can't Afford to Pay Your Bills. Okay. And the one thing that caught my eye in this article is it says that what you should do in a situation where you can't pay off your bills is, and I think they called it emergency budgeting. Crisis budget is what they call it. All right, and I'll read it off here. If your income has been affected by COVID-19, one of the first steps you should take is to switch to a temporary crisis budget. It goes on to say an essentials only budget will likely require some spending cuts, perhaps even where your utility services are concerned. For example, you might consider canceling non-essential services like cable or satellite, or lowering your current mobile phone plan to a cheaper option. Now, I will say that is a very good idea. However, I will say that is something that should be done before you're even in a crisis situation where you can't pay your bills. If you have a lot of debt over here and you're paying for a lot of extras over here, you know, a lot of people pay $200, $300 a month for cable. Not a necessity. Not a necessity at all. People pay for cable. Now, I will say I watch TV, I watch movies, but I look for the lowest cost option as far as streaming movies and streaming live TV. And I don't pay that $200 something a month for something that's not a necessity. All right. And I won't get all into the latte factor and cutting back on all the lattes we drink and all the money we spend at Starbucks and all those type things for all those extras. But suffice it to say, that crisis budget that they're talking about in this article should be your enduring budget. That should be what you're doing on a regular basis. They call it crisis budgeting. I call it just plain old budgeting. And trimming the fat in some areas. Why do you need a mobile phone plan that is so very expensive that it takes away from you paying off your debt? Why do you need those things? Yeah, I would say everyone needs a phone. Everyone needs to be able to communicate. But do you need the most expensive phone plan? So these are things that should have already been done prior to COVID, prior to any crisis situation. This type of budgeting is what should be done on a regular basis, especially if you have a lot of debt. So if you have a lot of debt, your main focus should be decreasing on whatever I can decrease as far as my monthly spending. Cutting back on as much as I can on monthly spending and channeling that money towards paying down that debt in a systematic fashion. But you can't do any of that without a budget. So, everyone, please take the time to map out a budget. All right? Take the time to draw out where you are and where you want to be financially as a household. All right? It could be, if you have a spouse, it could be a fun family project where you sit down and you just map everything out. There are going to be some discussions. There are going to be some points of differences with regard to, how we plan on spending our money if you are a couple. Talk through those things, because that's the best time to address those, is while it's on paper, before it's time to actually spend the money. Right? So take the time, do that discovery work to determine where you are, and talk about where you want to go and map out that plan. All right? And as a financial coach, that's some of the things that I help you out with, as far as budgeting, help you to determine how to get where you want to be financially. All right? So again, I'm Mr. Eric Watson. I am a Dave Ramsey preferred financial coach with my own company, TE3 Coaching Solutions. All right. So if you need help with anything that I talked about today with regard to budgeting, planning, how to get from point A to point B, let's talk. All right. Let me be your financial coach. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Everyone have a blessed and prosperous day. And I'm gone.